streaming through Restream now, so it sometimes takes a little bit to get it going. But, connecting. I think we are live. Welcome, everyone. Your favorite three are back. We're back with the same crew in what feels like forever. We haven't had like a consistent crew going in a long time, but we have us now. So we welcome Brad back to the show this week. He's going to be joining us a little bit more regularly now. That's the guy with the sweet pink sweater on. We all wore kind of cool colors tonight. We've also got Zach in his Surefour Gladiators jersey, our Gladiators beat writer, fittingly. And then I'm here hanging out as well. So my name is Connor Knudsen, if you guys don't know me. Is the stream freaking out for anyone else right now?
I'll go check it out.
That's a great question.
It was kind of doing a little bit of weird bar things. I don't like that at all.
Oh, yeah.
Is it doing that for you guys?
Well, of course, Twitch is going to give me a 30-second ad that doesn't support Game Haus. Supports Twitch.
Right, well,
fine.
hopefully it is not too bad. I'm going to close some tabs down before we really get going here. Sorry for the delay. Just want to make sure it's looking as crisp as possible. Do this, and I will do this. Okay. Hopefully that's a little bit better. If not, if it's a little glitchy, we are sorry, but we're going to keep going. We're going to be adding these streams to, if you don't already know, we're going to be adding them to Spotify and other podcast networks as well in the future. I know we're working on that right now, so if you aren't watching this on video or aren't catching it live, don't worry. We're going to try and get it in as many forms as possible, especially as we refine the show and continuously are making it better. We want to get it out in front of as many people as possible. So now that we've kind of officially jumped into the show, let's do what we always do, is reset our watch. Brad, I'll toss it over to you first. What have you been up to? What's been going on in your life recently?
Well, what I wanted to have going on in my life was playing some WoW Classic, but
we ruined that.
Queue times are they're interesting.
I've seen that.
Yeah, I tried to load in for a while, and I was just like, I can wait. Like, it's not that big a deal to me. I've actually been trying to complete Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Oh, nice.
That game is phenomenal, dude. Like, I played Fire Emblem ever since Awakening, and one of the common criticisms is that they're pretty like waifu like simulator type stuff. But this game is definitely not like that. It's almost like a Hogwarts sort of game mixed with like medieval themes, and I'm loving it. Super fun.
That's awesome, man. Zach, what have you been up to lately?
Catching the games at the LA homestand. That was a good time. Seeing my boy Connor getting the shout out from our other boy Malik, who's pretty dope. That was cool to see.
That was pretty wild.
Had the bridal shower on Sunday because I'm getting married in like 33 days, so that's pretty hype. So that was pretty cool. And then I had my first day of grad school today. So that's another big stuff going on. September and the end of August is big.
Yeah, big shit popping, dude. That's amazing. Congrats on all that.
Thank you.
A lot of good stuff. Yeah, for me, I was at the LA homestand this past weekend. Was able to go out there for media. Dogman made some waves that I happened to be able to tweet out pretty quick. They were pretty crazy. That kind of steered some of the narrative for the weekend, which was cool. Which we're going to get into that a lot more later. But overall, it was a really good weekend. Got to meet some people from some teams. Just meet some other people that I've just only known as Twitter mutuals. And it's always good to make those, in real life connections, just shaking people's hands and all that good stuff. So the games weren't too bad either. There was also some really good action. The Novo was a really fun area. It's in LA Live, which if you're not familiar, was near where the Staples Center is. Just kind of in the heart of downtown LA. There's a lot of good stuff going on. It makes, eating or doing anything expensive, but it's all right,
Did you at least get to eat a Kit Kat?
Yes, so many Kit Kat duos, dude. Oh my gosh.
Dude, I want to try one of those so bad. Like, chocolate and mint is my favorite combination.
They're really good.
I also love Kit Kat. So
it's like an Andes Mint, like a more sugary Andes Mint with cookie in the middle of it.
You have to. Oh, that sounds so good.
They're really good. So those will be dropping soon, but it was kind of cool to be able to get some exclusive chocolates.
Did you save any?
I saved one for the wife. I had to.
Nice.
King size, Really, really vicious. Chivalry's not dead.
Oof, married
for
man
those
meta.
in chat. So let's jump into our WatchHaus Player of the Week from the LA homestand weekend. Zach, you haven't brought us a sponsorship in a while. What who's sponsoring our Player of the Week this week? Our multiple Players of the Week we'll get into.
The sponsor for our WatchHaus Player of the Week this week is a big name, big time sort of thing. I think the Pacific Northwest needs some new teams. And the Portland Timbers, the MLS soccer team, are going to be sponsoring our WatchHaus Player of the Week. We got them right here.
Thank you,
They're
Portland.
ready.
Dude, another unexpected crossover that you
Rose
never would
City
have
till
guessed.
I die. Rose City till I die.
MLS and WatchHaus combining for one. So we, in planning this show, we could not pick a Player of the Week. It was house divided. We were arguing. It was getting heated. Zach was throwing hats around that he's cleaned up. He started just tossing them everywhere. It was
I've
madness.
lost at least 3 toes. It's been a struggle.
So we each have our own. So Zach, I'm going to let you start off since you brought us a sponsor. Who is your official WatchHaus Player of the Week this week? Brought to you by the Portland Timbers.
It can be no one other than the namesake on my jersey. It has to be Sherford. This man decided, you know what, I don't want to drop out. I would like to at least keep a top 5 spot here. And I would also just love to knock out our hometown rivals. He carried the Gladiators. Not to say that the rest of the Gladiators did not play well. He just popped off in ways that I have not seen him do since probably season 1. He probably played his best game of Overwatch in the second season of the Overwatch League. His Hanzo crazy. When he had to switch over to the Widowmaker, he was doing just as well, just clicking heads, doing Sure-4 things.
Yeah, no, this was one of the ones that we kind of all talked about a little bit when we were having this conversation because he did. That 2K kill with the arrow on Voskaya, almost, it seemed like that moment shifted the entire match.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Like that was
and his Widow when they were taking that point earlier too,
Yes.
when they were playing attack.
Yeah.
Insane.
a lot of deflating plays that he made as far as like kind of popping the Valiant's confidence and their hopes a little bit. So definitely had an impact on their entire season, basically. Brad, for you, who's your Player of the Weekend?
So for me, I wrote a name in the doc.
Okay.
But frankly, like throughout this whole weekend, there were just so many players that like just stood out to me. The player I wrote was Slime, particularly in his game against the New York Excelsior. I felt that he was definitely a standout between like all the players on the Titans, because the Titans have this thing where the players don't really stand out. People know them as like the cohesive unit that just play super well together. But especially in this meta now, though, I feel like he stood out to me. But like, like I said, there's just so many other players like Flower, for instance.
That's a really good
coming
point.
out with the Farah playing super well, and like because we all know Flower from the 2016 World Cup, and it's just like didn't really hear too much from him since then. We all just sort of assumes like, oh, he's probably just like chilling with Pine on the Widow one-trick bench, but.
Yeah.
No, he came out in a big way, and even like Libero in that series, like especially on
Doomfist
Control, his Doomfist play, his Farah play as well on Ilios.
Yeah.
Inspiring, really. But just tons of great players,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And for me, that's what I'm kind of picking one that he didn't see necessarily as much playing time as Sure4 did, but Architect. I think I tweeted out had the blueprint for Volskaya this weekend. I mean, he absolutely just had a masterclass in both series for the Shock this weekend. Just looked absolutely lights out for them. Sinatra had some great plays. Like that team as a whole played really well, but I think Architect was the one that kind of rose, the cream of the crop a little bit for that team. For me, at least, in terms of a standout performance.
Him and Choyobin.
Yeah, Choi is just a freak.
Dude.
Like, dude, forget Sinatra and Super. Give MVP to Choi. Like, he's the one that's played the whole time and been consistent the whole time. So
and he actually gets to play all the time.
Yeah,
Can we just give the whole shock roster MVP?
that's
Like,
also true.
literally, there's not a weak link on that team.
Yeah.
We're gonna get more.
The fact
to
that
it
you can put 2 MVP candidates on the bench most of the
And
time.
dominant.
and still look dominant. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, big shouts to Nevix and McGravy for getting on stage. Gotta love that. Like, the crowd went wild when McGravy went on stage. And even during his walkout for the second day, he was the only player walking out with, like, any emotion. He was, like, really getting into the high fives, like, super pumping up the crowd. So I think he played an important role for them. It didn't work out in the end, but shouts to him nonetheless.
Probably because he was like he knew the weight of the Valiant
That's so
shoulders.
true.
Like,
Not
season wasn't
on
on
him.
his shoulders.
That's so true.
He's like, it's like, I'm just gonna be rooting for you guys on the bench, and it's like, wish you all the best. And
I'm here if someone pulls a wrist, but other than that, like,
Yeah.
I'm just here to have fun and eat some Kit Kat.
He just pats Space on the shoulder. It's like, good luck, buddy, and he just goes to the bench.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our split house player of the week this week. We're gonna jump in now. We've been talking about the homestand. We're gonna kind of recap it through talking about what we learned from the homestand this season. This is our last weekend of the regular season, our final homestand of the 2019 season before we move to 2020. There's a lot of lessons to be learned going into the playoffs. Just lots of different things we want to talk about. So we're just gonna kind of popcorn style go through different lessons we learned and banter about them as we so choose for the foreseeable next 20 minutes or so. So if you're watching this on YouTube and don't want to hear that, just skip past it. That's approximately when we'll be done. Brad, tell me what's the maybe the first or just initial thing you feel like you learned from this weekend?
Well, watching the homestand and disregard the sweatshirt, I was quite sad for the Valiant. They're now 0-4 in all of their homestand matches because remember they did go to the Dallas homestand.
Yeah.
And I just gotta say I'm just.
Oh my god!
It's a tragedy.
Oh my god!
My boy.
They went 0-7. They were gonna make it back.
Yeah, no, Overwatch League not an anime confirmed.
But like for real, they played super well. Like all things considered, like the scoreline obviously says one thing, but like really, I thought they played pretty well.
Yeah.
Especially KSF. Like he's a player I feel like not too many people were talking about like all season, but watching him play like Widowmaker, it was just chills.
Yeah.
Really.
I totally agree. And he's someone who needed to come in and have a good weekend. I think he had some questions asked of him as far as they brought up the stat of like him dying first in team fights and stuff. He seemed like he would take some angles and kind of feed a little bit. So I was glad to see him at least play better. I think the Glads and the Shock DPS got the better of him, but I don't think it was by a margin that it has been in the past. Like I think he played really well, like you said. Zach, what's an initial thing for you?
I was convinced that in the game of Overwatch, no one person could carry a team. Like I was just convinced, like it's a 6-person game. That's what makes Overwatch different. No one can carry. And then I watched the Gladiators play Valiant, and Surefour just went off.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to just hammer home my Surefour hype right now with him being my play of the week, but like seriously, like he went off. Like Decay, like we talked about him a little bit, but like he just kind of had an average game. Roar did typical Roar things. Void played really well as he always does and is kind of underrated, but and Big Goose and Shaz were there. But the name that was consistently making the big plays, and yes, because he's a DPS player and everyone's going to focus on him, while KSF was having one of his best games of the season, Surefour was playing even better. Just completely matching his every move, and they didn't have anything to go at him. Like you look at Havana, and Surefour was just running rampant. Like no one could stop him. They weren't able to get anyone on him because he'd get the first pick on KSF, and after that you'd have to hope a hog hook landed, and even then Surefour was sometimes still able to peel.
Yeah.
And I wanted to add to that a little bit, and like we're talking about how well Surefour played, and definitely he was the most dominant player on the Gladiators, but I also wanted to talk about Void a little bit there. You mentioned he was pretty underrated. I want to go as far to say that Void is probably the most underrated player in Overwatch League right now.
That's very fair, I think.
Like, there was a little while ago, there were those player impact ratings that basically calculated like how impactful is this player whenever he plays. And Void, I want to say he was in like the top 10,
It was very
definitely,
high.
maybe even like top 6. And just like watching the series, one thing I noted was like how often Void was getting like initial picks off of random supports or even like the against like space. And so definitely I feel like Void is the most under the radar like player and possibly one of the best additions to this Gladiator roster that already have so many great additions. And I think that just goes for the Gladiators as a whole. They're not, other than Surefour and occasionally Decay, they're just not a very flashy team. Like a lot of their players, like they come in, they do their job. You can even see it in like their demeanor a little bit on stage.
Yeah,
it's like they come in, they do their job, and they go.
Yeah,
but they're really good at their jobs.
And this was a big thing that came up in the post game press conference actually with the team. Is Deepay came out and said it was kind of fiery. It was a little spicy. He's like, we don't care about the Valiant. We don't care about the Valiant's playoff soaps. We don't care about them. Winning is their problem. Our problem is coming in and winning week to week. And it was like kind of badass. I mean, he just like was so blunt, and all the players echoed what Surefour was kind of memeing during the interview. I posted it today, of just like, we don't bring our emotions into the match. We're professionals. When we go on stage, it's take care of business, and we don't really care about the narratives or what else is going on. And it was Shaz and Big Goose that were with the interview as well. And I think that's a really good point. I do think they're a team that is naturally gonna be underrated because there's not a Jake or there's not a Corey or Surefour is the closest thing to like a Western player that's flashy for Western fans to get behind. So yeah,
I completely agree. I mean, I think that like one of the reasons the Void is so underrated is because he was brought in halfway through last season, kind of was splitting time with Bishu, but the unfortunate of Bishu not being able to play because he was sick. But the fact is that Void was just also playing better. That's why, like, stage 3, we didn't see Bishu because Void has just been playing so well. And when you talk about new additions playing well for the Gladiators, everyone's going to talk Decay because Decay has been the MVP for the Gladiators this season. He's a Rookie of the Year. He's the MVP of the Gladiators so far. And, I mean, you've got just some quiet guys like Shaz and Big Goose aren't the most loud or outspoken. Hydration is known as the man of few words.
It's literally a meme,
yeah. Exactly. And so, I mean, I think that Void is just extremely beneficial and underrated for that team. Also behind the scenes, because he played on Kungdu Panthera with both Roar and Decay before he came over. And then when they brought those two in, everyone was thinking, oh, we're going to have Bishu because Bishu is bilingual and he's fluent in both English and Korean. But Void was already integrated with the team and was learning English and already had that chemistry with Roar and Decay. And so it made sense. And I think it's part of the reason we've seen so many changes on the DPS side of things for the Gladiators, like trying to find out what that how that big 3 is going to work with only 2 spots. When you have had consistent, like the 2 tank and 2 support of the Gladiators is the same week in, week out, unless they want to try letting Hydration play Orisa, which actually sometimes works. But I mean, Void has been consistently. I mean, I think he's too underrated to get the MVP vote, and if the Gladiators had maybe done well in a stage playoffs, he could have maybe gotten there. But he's been putting up some big numbers.
I'll jump in. I'm gonna hop for. We'll do the snakes. I'm gonna do a couple things I learned from the weekend. I'll throw it back to you, Zach. So kind of thing number 1. I think that the NYXL and the Spark in particular both looked really good this weekend, and I think that is a symptom of each team taking a while. They almost need to marinate with the meta. I mean, if you think of NYXL, they're kind of known as a cerebral defensive counterattack style team, and inherently to be that way you have to know what's going to be attacking you to be good at countering it, which entails knowing the meta really well. And I think that's going to take a while for them. Going into the playoffs could be a detriment to them. maybe they've been, a lot of the coaches this weekend in press conferences says they've been partitioning their practices this week, half practice with Sigma meta, half practice with current meta. Hopefully New York and the Spark have been doing that, honestly, because I think if they haven't been, I think these are two teams that will struggle early in the playoffs. But if they can survive those initial games, I think both could be actually very scary. So that's kind of the one thing, the first thing I kind of learned from this weekend. I think I learned that. Who knows? We'll see if it ends up coming to fruition. The second is just about homestands in general. So I was able to go to the Dallas homestand earlier in the year just as a fan. And that was much more of an experience that harkens to traditional sports fans, rather. You're in a stadium that's like a big U. You have concessions all around, just outside of the seating. It felt like you were at, for me, like an NBA game or even like a college football atmosphere, depending on the kind of stadium you go to for those. This experience at the Novo seemed very exclusively like an esports experience. This was, if I were to compare it to anything, I would maybe compare it to a concert. Because, when you walk down from the seats, it's like this really elaborate, beautiful bar, merch area, and a lot of cool, fun, interactive stuff to do in the venue. Similar to how you'd go buy merch at a concert or something like that. So I think next year fans are going to have to learn to embrace whatever their team's venue is and just understand that that's what their homestand is. That's kind of part of their identity. And so I think it's just an interesting bit about homestands to see what these arenas speak to the brands of the team. The Fuel kind of being that more traditional sports mantra thing. I think the Gladiators will have more of that as well when they move to Inglewood, which is going to be an incredible sports complex. But the Novo, like for teams like the Valiant, they use theaters, and I would say Atlanta is going to be like this as well. It's just a little bit more intimate. Yeah, New York, definitely New York. More of an intimate experience, more to the brand of maybe inclusivity for that team, which I think, like, obviously the Valiant, that's like a huge part of their brand is inclusivity and all that kind of stuff. So I just think it's fascinating to see how these homestands are shaping the branding of the team, how they're different from one another, capacity and just feel and experience and everything, and how that's going to work with investors and fans and just the whole experience. It's really fascinating to just sit down and think about all this stuff. So I feel like I was able to soak some of that in and learn it this weekend. So it was wild.
Wonder who will be the first team to do like an outside homestand.
So, which one is it?
That'd be funny.
One team has a pavilion that's outside. I forget what it might be. Washington.
I was gonna say Washington.
I think
they could pull it off.
It's Washington or Toronto. One of them has like an area where like half of it's exposed, which basically makes a lot of it exposed because of the nature of it. Like it's all one seating area. But it can be closed off, I think. So I don't know if they'll open it. It increases the capacity quite a bit. You don't want a lot of empty seats, so I don't know. But I do think it's a cool idea. Like a Red Rock amphitheater kind of feel for a team would be amazing. Be so cool.
I mean, it's only so cool if they're able to fill a good chunk of it.
Yeah, and not have weather and stuff too.
Exactly, the weather's a big part of it. And I mean, you look at Vancouver, they're a solid team and everyone loves them, but they're playing in the big hockey arena there.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're gonna shut off a lot of the seats there, but like, still, you don't want the on paper the best team in the Overwatch League to go to this giant arena and have like 500 fans show up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bad look.
It is, and I think that's why the Overwatch League is smart by giving like, hey, here's 2 home stands like in this season. Let's test it out. Let's see how loyal the fan bases could be. Let's see kind of where more people are watching, like what's going to get butts in seats every week or every other week in a home away sort of scenario.
Totally agree. So those were kind of the 2 big things for me. Zach, do you have anything else from the homestand that you get, any takeaways or?
I thought it was just from what I saw, I thought it was just really fun. I really liked the idea of the dunk tanks.
Yeah.
I just thought that it's a very unique kind of sort of whimsical feel that like it's definitely more an esports thing, but also just like, there's fun events at like half times of NBA games. You'll get like the guys who do cool pogo stick stuff. Like it's just a fun way, and like you're getting the players involved too because they get to pull the lever, and like there's stakes on the line because there's one of each, and the person who doesn't get dunked get like a year supply of kicks Kat. Like it's fun. It helps solidify some of these things, and like it helps super fans become even more super fans, and it's just one of those things that just kind of keeps everything lighthearted and is just a fun thing to see, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I totally agree. Brad, you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the dunk tanks were referred to as splash tanks apparently from
Yes.
Kit Kat. Like there was like a branding thing.
It was a
or
weird
something.
big thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Is like dunk tank like copywritten?
I don't know. Actually,
Maybe they
That's
wanted
very
to copyright Splash. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But
Yeah.
like have it stick out. The only other thing I was gonna say is too much dabbing. Like
Yeah.
little
Never
too much dabbing
enough.
for me.
Damn.
We had a leg
Here's the
dab
deal.
from a Gladiators fan.
Here's the deal. I am definitely one of those guys that's like I take the thing like when YOLO was like when it was going out of style, I was the one saying it ironically. It's like I throw the dab every now and then, of course. I'm a tasteful dabber, but it's like a little too much. The leg dab I was a fan of.
Creativity points.
Yeah.
And as someone who is an advocate for dabbing often, I understand that there is a limit reach. It's like, all right, like we're gonna show these people a few times, and like, I mean, they don't know what to do. They're not prompted. They're just super fans who signed up for this, and they got chosen, and so they're like, oh, I'm on camera. What do I do?
It's like
I'm just gonna revert back to my dab. Like I'm sitting there. I can't do any other Fortnite dance or whatever. Or I don't know what to do. Wave at my mom. Like I can't say anything. All I can do is kind of communicate with my arms while sitting above this tank of water.
It's a good safety.
So,
yeah, I agree with that. That's fair.
Because it's a nice gesture that like people cringe at you and like people laugh, but like it's not anything super out there. And so I thought it was safe from the fans.
Yeah. I'm loving that we're having an in-depth conversation on dabbing on WatchHaus. This is the kind of Overwatch analysis that I hope people come to this show for.
Of course.
It's amazing. Brad, do you have any kind of final thoughts on the homestand? Any last impressions, things you learned?
Nah, pretty much just the dabbing. It was a little too much, but...
Just the dabbing.
No, but I mean, I like the venue. I thought the venue felt a little small whenever they cut like to the crowd, at least like watching it on broadcast. I was like, it felt much more like cramped in a way.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, between all three homestands, I think my favorite was actually Atlanta.
Interesting.
Like just thinking about them, because like, you have Fuel, you have the huge bombastic, traditional sports stuff, and I was like, that's cool. I would prefer to save those kind of venues for like bigger events, because like, it was the first homestand, but it's like come next year, it's just going to be like it's going to be just a couple of games,
Yeah.
But like Atlanta's, it felt just the right amount of like hype, but like also just like subtlety. So
yeah, I will say the decibel level was much higher at Dallas than
I would imagine.
Yeah, I
LA.
can imagine. Yeah.
I mean, because LA, it's so that it looks small because the floor area is very small, and then the balcony seats are very steep, and so you couldn't really get them on camera in a meaningful way. And even so, that made the acoustics really weird, where you couldn't really hear the balcony crowd if you were below because you were cut off by this big kind of ceiling thing. Whereas in Dallas, like when Houston walked out, the booing was louder than any moment at the Nova was the entire weekend. Like, not even close. So, but that is what it is.
I kind of liked the feel of it. I figured that there were balcony seats because I was like, there can't only be those people on the floor.
There were a ton.
But I mean, I thought it was nice because just like you've got a ton of balcony seats, which works because you can actually see them. I've been to plenty of places where it just goes back and you're like, I'm a tall guy. I'll still see the back of someone's head.
Yeah.
And I thought it was nice because you had the super fan. You had the people who were there who were going to cheer the whole time. Like, you have the people that want to be there, pay a little bit extra to get those floor
a good
seats.
point.
And those are the people that the Overwatch League and each of these teams want showcased at the very front. I mean, you see it when we're in Blizzard Arena. You've got the seats in the front, you've got the seats in the back, and you have the loudest, most rambunctious, the most passionate people, at least outwardly, sitting there in the front.
That's a good point.
Most of the time. And so I liked the concept of it. I will say I thought the Dallas one was just really cool to see, just like a huge arena filled with all these people. And like, I love going to just somewhere huge and just hearing loud chants and hearing people in unison going, and that can really hype up a crowd. But the Atlanta one, I agree, was really cool because it was kind of that mix of like, there's a lot of people here, but it still seems personal and it still is really exciting.
Yeah.
So it will, as we were saying earlier, it's going to be interesting to see how each team embraces their own venue.
Yeah.
In general, just Atlanta, the org, and the players know how to put on a show.
Absolutely. Which we are going to definitely get into here in a little bit. Before we do that, though, I do want to we'll save it. We'll save it. I want to make sure we get through these brackets.
It was almost a perfect toss, but
it was you gave me a softball transition and I just whiffed it. So
no, it's
went for the alley-oop, gets it in the other team's net.
That's what just happened. Exactly. So because I want to make sure we get to this, we've each made there was a Reddit post just about 2 hours ago with a link to where you can make your own playoff double elimination bracket, including play-ins, and it does it all for you. It's really seamless and easy to use. We thought this would be a perfect opportunity to showcase our initial thoughts on what the brackets are going to be, including the play-ins. So we're going to go through, I'm going to put images up here in a second, kind of one at a time. We're going to go through our brackets and kind of reveal who picked what. Maybe the picks we're most confident in. We don't necessarily have to go through the entire bracket because it'll be on the screen for you to view. If you're listening to this on a podcast, sorry, you'll get the gist.
On YouTube.
YouTube, and we'll be tweeting them out and stuff. So, Zach, I'm going to throw yours up first.
All right.
It should be up right now. Talk us through this. You have a finals with the Shock defeating the Charge. What are some games on the route to that you're most confident in? Just ones you want to highlight in general.
So first, I want to highlight the play-ins. I think that's just everyone's excited about that. I've been talking about how that's going to be some of the best Overwatch we're going to see all season. Charge are just going to breeze their way through that. The way they played throughout this stage, I really don't think that the Hunters, and if they win that game, the Dynasty, are gonna be able to stop them. It's not gonna happen. The Dynasty are just kind of slowing down. The Hunters barely squeaked into the playoffs. Charge will get that, and I'm very excited because I think, as much as I hate this, I think Fusion will beat the Dragons, and so we're gonna have a season playoffs rematch in the play-ins there just to get in. And I think London will do that. To highlight a few games, I do think the Charge are going to beat the Titans in the quarterfinals.
That's a big one.
It is a big one. That's kind of what's my whole bracket. I think my problem whenever I make a bracket, because I know nothing about college basketball, and I usually just make one. And last year I made one because my team was in the tournament, so I said, "Let's go Belmont," and they almost did it.
Yes.
That was close. But I think we got to have one team, some underdog team, take this, and I think that I'm gonna have to run with the Charge. To highlight another quarterfinal, Gladiators will get their first playoff win here. I think it's gonna come in the first round against the Spark, as you were saying earlier. The Spark take a little bit to adjust to a meta, and we're gonna be playing a different meta with the Sigma patch. The Sigma patch is gonna really, I think, shake a lot of things up. Earlier, Scherfer was tweeting about how he didn't like it, and we've heard a lot of people talking about how, Goats is dead, but now we're just getting shields on shields on shields on shields and May. But I think the Gladiators will be able to take out the Spark, but eventually the Charge will run through. I think it'll be interesting. Another one I want to highlight is down in losers bracket. I have the Excelsior playing the Reign, and as if you look back earlier this season, the Excelsior played a stage where they were able to beat everyone except for the Reign.
They are the kryptonite, big time.
And so I think that's going to happen, and we're going to see another losers finals with the Charge and Titans, and I think Titans, that's going to be a much closer one than the quarterfinals, I think, because everyone's going all out. But
I like that.
I hate to say it because I don't like them, but the Shock are going to win. I don't enjoy admitting that. I don't enjoy predicting that. But the path that they have, and the teams that they'll potentially play, I don't see it feasibly possible for them to not at least make the finals.
Yeah.
but they're still so dominant no matter what meta we play in, and I don't like it.
I feel ya. Yeah, the Shock kind of seem like Thanos. They seem inevitable right now. We'll see how that I think something with the Shock, and we can get into this more, but the Shock have this guy named Nevix just sitting on the bench who's reportedly just been playing Sigma non-stop since he came out as a character. So there's a chance they just unleash Nevix and Super comes back into the lineup at that point for the Western connection, and they just are just ungodly. So
yeah, it'll be interesting because I mean, you've also Gladiators could pull out the secret weapon of Hydration, who is #1 ranked in all 3 roles on ranked right now because he's like, I'm gonna start streaming again. He was like, biannual stream, triannual stream, and we just kept streaming. And then like he's playing on an alt account right now, and he was just going to the leaderboards like, oh, I'm top of tank, oh, I'm top of DPS, oh, I'm top of support. Like, I mean, as much as I'm on the Decay Surefour train, Hydration can play anything, and I wouldn't be shocked if Deepe and the rest of the Gladiators have something up their sleeves.
That's fair.
Now, granted, Hydration being at the top of the leaderboards might not mean as much, just because, like, I don't know if every player is like grinding a ladder right now.
Right.
So,
it's a beta.
But to get #1 regardless is still pretty impressive.
It's pretty good. It's pretty impressive on all 3 roles.
Especially for a flex DPS player, it's like
it's a big flex. So I like this bracket. So we've got Shock over Charge in this one. Brad, I'm going to throw it out. Yours is on the screen now. And look at that. We have another Shock over Charge in the grand finals. Wow. I would not expect those 2 teams to show up twice among 2 of our 3 brackets. Talk me through this. What's going on here?
I'll tell you what, man, I am not disappointed about the Shock making it all the way. This team, you know what? I wanted to have a little aside real quick, and I just wanted to appreciate Sephi, the coach, or like Brad, the coach for the Atlanta Reign.
Yeah,
has technically like 2 rosters that he built, both in the playoffs for this season, because he was very instrumental in setting up the Shock roster for this season. And now he has the Reign that were able to secure top 6. So I think that speaks volumes for him as a coach.
Way far back, last night's leftovers. Like, this guy is very tenured as an Overwatch coach.
Like, we talk about like Krusty, we talk about like Pavane, Deepe. I feel like is it Sephi?
Yeah, Sephi. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I feel like his name needs to be brought up a lot more.
It's very fair.
But going through the rest of the bracket, I felt like going through, I was picking a lot of safe picks, honestly, because like Charge versus Hunters, I think that's pretty one-sided. Fusions versus Dragons, I also feel like is pretty one-sided as far as we see as we've seen from both teams.
Yeah.
Dragons kind of shat the bed going up against the Spark.
Yeah.
And Fusions, their last game against the Dynasty, they look pretty hot. But that being said, going up against the Spitfire, coin flip team, when it comes to the playoff situations, I feel like they can do it. That being said, it is single elimination for the play-in tournaments. So I'm equally as convinced that we see a world where Fusion make it in the Spitfire don't. But Charge, I think, will beat the Dynasty pretty convincingly. I'd probably put like 60-40 on that one.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit closer. Going into the actual playoffs then, I pretty much just have Shock and Titans going through quarters and semis, business as usual, honestly. I do agree that Gladiators will finally get like their playoff win just to lose to the Titans, unfortunately.
I don't even care if they lose to the Titans. I just want them to have the one.
Get the monkey off their back.
Just to get it under their belt so that they finally just get rid of that stat and that curse that they have.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah, it is that they are definitely not a team that, you look at them and say, oh, they don't win playoffs for whatever reason. And then going into like the losers bracket, honestly, I hovered over the Spitfire and Reign match, and I was just sitting there, and I was like, I don't know which one it was. I don't know what team I want. And I accidentally like clicked on Spitfire, and I was like, oh, well, I guess that's what my heart wants, and so I just sort of moved on. But that is probably, if the bracket plays out up to that point, I feel like that is the most coin flip match, because the Reign they are looking hot right now.
Yeah.
And Spitfire, it is a question of Spitfire even going to make it into the playoffs. Yeah. So,
I mean, if it was single elimination last year, they wouldn't have made it, because that first day the Gladiators just stomped all over them.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I think that would be it could be a really exciting game just because of how high of a ceiling London has. I mean, it's just like, if they come to play at full potential, they can beat anyone, and that's been true for a long time. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, there are a ton of storylines that, like, I'm looking at these brackets and I'm just like, yeah, a lot of people are disappointed that the Valiant couldn't like redeem themselves after their 0-7 stage. I mean, I'm not that upset, but but you still have plenty of storylines like coming in here. Like Charge, one of the most like not like the least talked about teams in the league, potentially going all the way to the finals.
Yeah.
You also like the Titans and Shock rematching potentially twice.
Yeah.
It's just like that is probably one of my favorite rivalries in the league right now, just because it feels so like naturally born, like the two just juggernauts. And it was actually funny. During the Nixel and Titans match, they had that promo video where it was Sabiolbi, Jonak, Bumper, and Janu.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Or Haxel. Yeah. They were talking about like the rivalry between these two teams, and Nixel were like, "Oh, they're a really good team, so we just gotta prove we're better." And Bumper's just like, "What are you guys talking about?"
Yeah, they're not a rival. We don't think of them that way.
Watching Nixel play there, compared to us, it's like this is the match you guys have been waiting for. No, man. So, but it's like my top 4 teams going all the way. It's like Shock, Titans, Charge, Atlanta. Every other team, I just feel like they'll make it close. Like honestly, every team except for maybe like Chengdu and Shanghai, like every team could make this a very competitive playoffs. It's going to be entertaining as hell to watch.
I totally agree. I'm going to jump into mine because we're running a little bit low on time. But I do like, I completely agree with your statement about the 4 teams. I think you have to look at Titans, Charge, Shock, Reign as the 4 teams right now, which is amazing because 2 of them are like regular season beasts, and the other 2 are like stage 4 beasts in the Reign and Charge. Which is kind of strange, which both of those can work out in your favor if you get hot at the right time. We saw that in last year's playoffs, so it's definitely interesting. I'm going to throw mine up here. It is up there right now. So I am the only one who does not feature the Charge in the finals. I'll talk through some quick games. I think the easiest game to call is the Charge over the Hunters. And this is one of those where like we all think that, and then who knows, the Hunters could come out and Bacon
Hunter's
Jack
gonna win the whole thing.
Yeah,
they're winning the whole thing.
Bacon Jack and Jinmu could just wild out, and you never know. So like I call that game for the Charge because I have to as an analyst to keep my credibility. But who knows? It's Chengdu. It's the Chengdu effect. They beat New York 4-0 when no one thought that was a possibility. I actually think the Dragons could beat the Fusion. We're going to be... I don't know. I think Shanghai could start to figure it out more. I think Envy has looked better on off-tank. That's been kind of one of their things. They've shuffled around so many players on off-tank. I think it's finally clicking for him. But either way, I don't think it's going to matter between the Fusion and the Dragons who qualifies. I think either one's going to lose to the Spitfire. I also think the Charge are going to handle the Dynasty pretty safely. But getting into the playoffs themselves, I'm sitting with 2 Gladiators fans, and I have them going 0-2 in the playoffs again, which is unfortunate. Yeah. But I think the Spark are just looking so good. Like they have taken a while to figure it out. But I'm kind of going against my own analysis here a little bit. But they have looked just so good. So I think the
meta. It's the new meta.
That's true. That's you can say that for almost all these matches, right? So I do have Titans over Charge to start just because of the Titans. Their runaway, they've been here before. I think Charge could have a little bit of problem with the playoff pressure. Not really super experienced in clutch games as a team. I think one of the most exciting games from the first round is going to be NYXL Spitfire. That is a rivalry that should be hyped up more. I think, than NYXL Vancouver. I think Vancouver Shock is the rivalry.
Oh,
in
absolutely.
The league. But I think second to that, I mean, you have Battle of LA, of course, and Houston Dallas. But I think Excelsior Spitfire should be in the same conversation because of how they duked it out in Season 1. These are the two Season 1 teams. And I think New York get a little bit of redemption here. I think Spitfire are just, their inconsistency is going to be their Achilles heel this year, and it's going to kill them. And they're not going to win a playoff game either in my bracket. Shock, I think, are going to run through the first round. I think they're going to catch the Rain off guard. But what I think that's going to do is I think it's going to set the Rain up to, as you can see in my losers bracket, just go to town. I think they've been cruising a little too much right now in Stage 4. They've had some relatively easy opponents, especially to close out. My goodness. So I think there's a question to whether they're proven or not. I think they need to get beat pretty bad, and I think that first game could be a stomping. I think Shock could come out and just rock them. Who knows? But I think that will light enough of a fire, and this is a team. Surefour actually described this way in the interview. I didn't publish it because I didn't think it was whatever. He said Atlanta is a Chad team that is only as good as how much testosterone they have flowing that day and how Chad-like they are. Which is an amazing quote. It is so Surefour, it's unbelievable. But I think they're gonna come in super raw in emotion. It's gonna burn them, and I think they're gonna slowly build it up and work their way through the losers bracket. They'll knock out Spitfire XL. I think if they meet both of those teams, I think it would be convincing. Outside of maybe the Spitfire getting hot or something. Of all the matches to predict, though, I think the best games will be the ones, if you look at the right of semifinals and all those games, Titan Shock in the winners finals, Charge Rain in the losers third round, losers finals Titans Rain, final Shock Rain. Those are the four teams we've been talking about. I mean, that's why I said why I agree with you so much is I think these four teams will be the ones that survive. Past that, I clicked the Rain on the bottom and on the finals. Who knows, honestly? Like, I have no idea if it comes to those four teams. And that would be some of the most exciting Overwatch I think we've ever seen. They'll have been playing for a bit in the playoffs. They'll be used to the meta. I mean, I just think it would be amazing. Dogman will be talking some shit, and that'll get people going. Especially like if he could, get on like Nero or some people from the Charge or the Shock as well. Like I think there could be some real fiery stuff going on there. But I see the redemption arc being really strong for the Rain because of coaching, because of their ability to handle the new meta. But again, like I said, those four teams are so good.
So tough to call. I do have a question for both of you though.
Yes.
Who's the one team that you would be most disappointed winning the whole thing?
Oh man, I'm gonna say the Seoul Dynasty. If the Seoul Dynasty get out of the play-ins and win, I will just not like it. I have a bit of a beef with this team where I just don't really respect them. I love Lunatic High, like historic Overwatch. You're great, but these are some has-been dudes. Like I'm not a big Seoul Dynasty fan. I love Jaehong, but
how can you not?
Yeah. But man, I think they need to do a major overhaul, and I would be really upset to see them be validated for what they've done this year. So that's my beef.
Brad?
Ooh, for me, it would have to either be London or Philly. London, just because I'm one of those weirdos that's just like, I'm not a huge fan of like the repeat victories and stuff because it's like, we've been there, man. Give me something new.
Yeah.
But as for Philly,
as a Bulls fan, give me the double three-peats.
I like looking back at it like historically, but like
living through Dynasty sucks.
In the moment, I'm just like, give me something new.
Yeah.
But as for Fusion, man, just like throughout this whole season, they played so uninspired. Like, and it would, for me, it'd just be like, oh, now you decide to show up. It's like after coasting through like 3 stages in like the Papega division, and then like sort of scraping by stage 4, and then it's like now all of a sudden you decide to show up. I'm just like, nah, give me the exciting teams. So give me Give me Titans. Give me Shock.
Yeah.
Give me Rain. Honestly, like those are the 3 teams I'm just like I'm vying for.
Yeah. What about you, Zach? Who would be?
I'd have to agree, absolutely Philly, because they're the team. They're probably my least favorite team in the league. Kind of for Bants with some friends and some other writers on the staff. But also just, I mean, I agree. I think it's just this season, they've been the definition of mediocrity. They're just kind of there, just kind of cruising.
Yeah.
As someone who originally, when the Overwatch League started, decided to be a fan of the Gladiators and the Spitfire because of their colors, I would be a bit disappointed if London won. I think that in the moment, a lot of those games would just be super exciting. And I also agree with you with Seoul. I mean, I've never been a fan of Seoul. And then when the whole Fissure leaving the Gladiators thing happened, I was just definitely like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, any of those teams winning it, like, I mean, if Vancouver do it, Vancouver do it. I don't want to see the Shock win just because I've just never been the biggest fan of them, but like they also deserve it, so I wouldn't be mad about that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, even if Chengdu make it and Chengdu do well, like I'm not going to be mad about that either.
That would be exciting. It would just be for the memes.
Exactly. I don't think anyone can be. You just have a man carrying everybody, being the ultra Chad.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's got to be Fusion or Spitfire, even though the little bitty Spitfire fan inside of me is screaming at me right now.
Yeah. I think the reason I chose Dynasty is exactly what you guys described. It's just like a team that's been kind of mediocrity throughout the season, and we want to see a team that's deserved it, or at least a team we can watch and have fun doing it, like
Exactly.
Exactly.
I don't think that Fusion is fun to watch.
They aren't right now.
I mean, you can maybe make a case for Dynasty, maybe for London, just kind of both of those teams be like, oh, they used to be fun, and we can see speckles of that. And like the only thing Fusion's got going for them, like hype wise, is Carpe.
Yep.
And like that's fine. Like Carpe will go off, and like nothing against Carpe, but I mean, I don't know. It's just, I mean, it's not gonna happen. Just hypothetical. I will not be happy if they make any sort of run.
That's fair. So yeah, I think that we're back to our beautiful faces now in the stream, by the way. So this is something we're going to touch on more as the weeks go on. I won't be here for next week's episode, so but when I do come back and when we are reunited together, we will be talking about this more. Until we get to off season, I mean, playoffs are kind of it right now. We're done with the regular season officially, so this is where all the spice is at now. This is the spice
We're
rack.
in the end game.
We're in the end game. So before we close out,
I don't feel so good.
Before we close out the night, we're gonna get some news. I'm just gonna briefly say that the USA 7-man roster was announced. I don't want to get too much into this because of time constraints. It's something we could certainly debate more because of the players that were left off, maybe more than the players that were kept. Notably at DPS, we don't have Hydration or Dante, which is wild. I'm glad to see Corey get it though. I don't think anyone's upset about that. And then you cut Sleepy and Muma as well. I think there was another one that I'm forgetting, but rip if I am. Maybe I'm not. But yeah, so we do have our roster now. The controversial pick was Raucus, and that's the thing everyone's going to jump on right away is that he's on flex support. But you can form your own opinions about that. He survived the trials process. And I think the criticism is not even necessarily going to lie on Raucus, but rather on Coach Arrow, which is going to bring us to our next topic of conversation. That is Dogman's comments towards Arrow of the weekend. This is the thing that I was in the press room for. So on stage with Emily during an interview, he said, it's kind of cool for us to go through and beat all these USA people because none of us on the reign got selected. So GG's Arrow. So in the press conference afterwards, a member of the media asked Dogman, like, hey, do you want to follow up on that? And Dogman, like, jumped at the opportunity. He was, like, fiery. He was talking quick. Like, he meant... This was not just lighthearted talking in jest. This was big. He was like, honestly, like, I think he's a nice guy, but he's incompetent at his job. He's as Team USA and with Team Dallas. I've heard of some internal conflicts that have been happening with Team Dallas. And the reporter was like, what internal conflicts are you talking about? And FRD nudges him. This wasn't included in any interviews, by the way. FRD kind of like nudges him like, hey, you do not have to answer that. Like, don't answer that. And Dogman was like fuming. and then he kind of like, you could see him kind of like realize like FRD had been like the sensei to calm him down, and he came off of it and was like, yeah, I probably won't disclose that, honestly. And then he quickly, he went on and said like, there were 3 members from the reign that didn't even get past the first round of tryouts for Team USA. None of us made the final team. That's all we're going to say. But if FRD hadn't have been in the room, Dogman would have kept going and would have probably spilled some pretty confidential and serious stuff going on with the fuel. And so, I left the press room immediately and tweeted it out. They continued talking about 2020 stuff. The conversation got shifted, but it was...
You're like, screw that.
Yeah, that was not interesting at that point. That was... I didn't care one bit about it. I got out and got that as quick as I could. But it was really intense. It was strange. This led a lot of other Overwatch League players to jump in, basically, again, debating trash talk, this thing that keeps coming up in the league. This is the first, what I would call, real example of trash talk that happened, where a player meant something and was calling out someone for being bad at their job or just being trash, and I think actually meaning it and having some passion behind it. He had a reason for saying it because he didn't make the roster, whereas like past trash talk has been like, oh, you think our goats is trash? Well, blah. Like, come on. Like, boring, very fabricated, just doing it for the narrative stuff. This seemed authentic and real, which brought all players in saying, is this professional? Was this actually trash talk? Or is this just him questioning someone's credibility? I want to get you guys' thoughts on this. We're going to go a little late because this is very interesting to talk about and very timely. Brad, what are your initial thoughts on this stuff from Dogman?
I would hate to see like all the emotions get hurt if we had players like Doublelift in the Overwatch League, because just like for me, when I heard this Dogman trash talk, I was like, hell yeah, dude, call out. It's like, look at the fuel, they're pretty good. Start of the stage, have some on and off games, but then they just take a nosedive, and it's like, call them out. We always talk about the plebeians on like Reddit. They call out these things, and we're always just like, whatever. But now it's like the players start doing it. It's like, maybe what's up, Arrow? It's like, what you got going on, Fuel?
Yeah.
And it's like, I definitely think that, I think part of the reason we're seeing a lot more like trash talk this stage, one, because the level of competition just across the board so much higher.
Yeah.
And number 2, just more players in general in the league, more players feel like they need to get their brand out there a little bit more. I think next season, when all the players are like spread out, they're no longer in California.
Yeah.
We're gonna see a lot more like dirt.
Not next door to the guy you're trash talking anymore.
Especially ex-Boston players. I feel like a lot of like Boston players are gonna start like, dishing.
There's going to be a lot of ex-Boston players next year, I think.
You were talking earlier about how Philly is your least favorite team. Boston are my least favorite team by like a country mile. Because it's like, I hate even calling them teams. It's just like temporary player house. It's just like just rotate them in. They wanted to ditch fusions like in stage 1, and it's like, why?
This is the trash talk I'm here for.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what are you guys doing? It's like, everyone always talks about, it's Huck's master plan to make like as much money as he can selling off players. But it's like, what makes a player much more valuable? If you actually like win with them and you don't have your best flex support on the bench.
Yeah.
It's like, how are you going to get money from out at that point? And you know what? I do believe that there's some serious internal conflicts within Boston, and I think a large part of it is due to the infrastructure, because it's like we've seen multiple players from Boston come out and just say it's like, this is not the org.
Yeah. So look at mistakes last year. It's a great example. I totally agree. Zach, any thoughts?
I think trash talk is good. I think trash talk in this league needs to happen, especially if they want to get more towards the traditional sport. I think it's going to strengthen rivalries. I think it's going to strengthen individual player rivalries. I think it's just going to add more spice. I think it's going to just kind of, in a sense, give it more credibility, because it's like, oh, this is really competitive. Like, this is happening. I think Dogman went about it the wrong way. I think what he said on stage was fine. I think that ending it right there would have been a perfect post-game trash talk.
Yeah.
Because, I think what he had, if he would have said stuff like that before the game, I think it probably would have been fine, because it's like, oh, like, I'm trash talking before the game, I'm hyping my team up, putting your team down, then we go out and get the result and be like, see, look, I told you.
Yeah.
This was, we were already going to beat you, we beat you, I said something witty and how I felt, and then I just let my anger get the best of me. And that's not what trash talk's about. Trash talk is about building yourself up and breaking another person down, but not attacking them personally or saying, like, what he said that Arrow was competent. That's not trash talk at that point. That's just, I mean, kind of rude.
Yeah.
And just a little uncalled for. Like, you can say, hey,
hell yeah,
I think he's a bad coach. I don't think he made the right decision. Obviously, like, we're doing so well, like, he made a mistake. Because trash talk needs to be more about, like, we're better more than you're worse.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And I think if he would have stopped what he said on, like, with what he said on stage, that would have been perfect, and that would have been a great example of, look, this league can have healthy trash talk. I think one of the reasons the league has been kind of trying to keep trash talk minimal is it's such a young league. They don't want a bad reputation because this is only their second year, and esports are new and trying to get more credibility. And also, these are a lot of young guys.
Yeah.
Like, these are very young guys, and I mean, some of them have had media training, some of them haven't, and you've got some people who aren't as used to the spotlight. Like, you've got professional traditional sports athletes who are in the spotlight 24/7. Some of these guys, especially like stage 2 teams or season 2 teams or teams, people that got picked up, this is their first taste of real, like, fame. Like, they're having 100,000 people watch them on Twitch. Like, people are showing up in arenas to watch them. And I think that the Overwatch League was trying to be smart and be like, all right, like, we'll ease into it. And I think Dogman could have been a spicy take and a thing that got the media talking. But now he just looks like an ass.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited. I want more trash talk. I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, like,
now.
you probably could have been a great fit on the national team. But again, there are 7 spots on probably the second biggest market of players.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it's not just about skill. It's also about, like, how things work. And yeah, maybe Arrow isn't the best coach and Dallas suck. I mean, no one's gonna really disagree with you on that other than Dallas fans. And even some Dallas fans will agree with you.
Yeah, and that's so much of.
You went too far.
That's a lot of where we are as analysts. Is at least for me, like right now, I don't really have a team I'm a hardcore fan of, and so for me, looking at it from just a league perspective, I just want the league to succeed, so I have employment and a future in this. Honestly, so from a league perspective, this is amazing. Think about the homestand weekend. If he doesn't say that, the only storyline is Valiant getting to the playoffs. That is all anyone would have cared about the entire weekend. But because he said that, the arena, like, people were talking about it. Twitter blew up, obviously. Like, it created a narrative instantly in 1 second, him saying those words. And I guess me tweeting them. But, like, someone was going to do it. So I think, like, and that also creates a rivalry between Dallas and Atlanta instantly. Especially with Unco clapping back. Like, amazing. So they play on July 11th next year in Dallas. And you better believe Atlanta's going to get booed harder than Houston. Yeah. If Dogman's on the roster, I think that is absolutely the truth. Dallas fans
that's what
are going
you
to
want
hate
in a competitive environment.
Yeah.
Especially if you're moving to these homes where there's home fans. That's what you want. You don't want everyone being like, because, like, that's what you have at Blizzard Arena right now. It's like, oh, people are here. We're just gonna clap for everybody, yay! Because there's no bad guy. There's no like strict rivalry other than, like, the ones that were kind of implemented by the league. One of the early pieces that I wrote at the Game Haus last year was about what rivalries have started to form and what really makes a rivalry. And I mean, one of the biggest things is history, and we're in such a young league that, like, the manufactured ones, like, it's got to start somewhere, like the Battle of LA. Like, that's about it. Or, like, I was thinking maybe what was going to happen if Paris was competitive, like, there could have been the European one. But then Paris wasn't really anyone, and that never took off.
Yeah.
And you just got to, like, these things have to form naturally, and moments like this is how that happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Give me more bumpers. Give me more dog mints. Give me, give me Surefour when he's feeling kind of frisky. But it's just give me
let
more.
Let them chirp at each other.
Give me like these like emotional players.
Yeah.
Like, cause like, as a fan, hell yeah, I'll eat that shit up all day.
Yeah. And so the counterpoint right now for Dogman doing this is because you don't want to talk trash. Because what if you're on a team with a Dallas field player? What if Zachary gets picked up by Atlanta? And what I think has been pointed out in the past is that people have, in professional situations, it's happened in sports all the time. The two players work it out, realize you were just doing it because you're setting an image up for yourself, and this is a league, so you're going to talk shit. They get past it, and they become teammates, and it works out fine.
And you also have to think that, like, his beef wasn't with the Fuel.
Right.
His beef was with Arrow. And, like, I mean, you look at traditional sports, this happens all the time. Like, I'm a Chicago Bears fan. We just picked up someone who played for the Packers for many years. And he's probably trash-talked the Bears at some point, but we don't care. He's going to play for us. He's going to put on the jersey, and he's going to go make tackles.
Yeah. Exactly. And so, I think that, like, overall the debate is going to be centered around what you brought up, Zach. Like, did he go too far in those statements? I think that's going to get lost in the sauce eventually, because I think that people are going to just focus on the fact that, what the trash talking did, what was the result of that, rather than what was said specifically is going to be more of the focus, which I think is probably fine. I think Arrow's an adult and a professional, and the Fuel organization is not going to judge Arrow based on what Dogman said. It's not like his job is in jeopardy. Like, certainly people are going to be asking more about it now, but if he's really actually bad, then maybe it'll get looked at a little closer. So, I think, but overwhelmingly so, I think this was a good thing for the league. I think it'll continue to be a good thing. I think we need more bad boys in the league. We need more players who are a little bit controversial and not like XQC bad boy where you're making like homophobic remarks at times and different things like that, and like and different people have different perspective on XQC as well. But
have a little filter, have a little bit of a filter.
Yeah, and I think what Dogman did is not going to get him banned. He didn't violate any league rules, and so that's a stark difference.
But play within the rules and play the game well.
Yeah. So
the rule of trash talking.
And if you trash talk and you don't play well, it's going to get thrown back into your face. That's just how it is.
It should.
It should be.
Yes.
Because that's what you're doing. You're hyping yourself up. You're putting the other people down. Like it gets the fans. It makes the fans more excited. It makes investors excited to see that people actually care about this.
Yes.
At the end of the day, the two ways that you're going to get me to buy your jersey is if you're good and if you're entertaining.
Yeah,
and
it's true.
Honestly, I've been looking at a Dogman jersey from Atlanta for a little while now. So that's
the same with me for Stratus and Gods for different reasons. So you can be entertaining by just being a meme, or you can be entertaining by trash talking, and I'm okay with either one. I'd be okay with a league full of Gods and Stratuses as well, but I'm okay with Dogman as well. I'd just rather those two things than just nothing. So
these players aren't saints, and we don't want them to be.
Yeah, exactly. So to close out, let's do our WatchHaus words of wisdom really quick. We have already gone a little bit past, and we all got stuff to do. You know how it is. So do either of you guys have one off the top of your heads, or am I going to have to wing one to start us off?
I can go.
Okay. What's up?
I got two.
Yes.
Don't be an ass unless it's funny.
Fair.
And be like Surefour and just carry your team, Forehead.
Yep. Love
sure
it.
Forehead, carry your team.
Mine will be, I think that this weekend with interviews and everything, I'm seeing how esports can be like traditional sports in the entertainment value ways, and we can bring the good things out of it and mesh those two worlds together in a good way. And so let's do that. Let's not be afraid. The boomers can have their traditional sports, and and this was a fascinating conversation I had with the director of esports from the Vancouver Titans. We are a generation right now who is seeing the beginning of the Overwatch League. Imagine if you were a football fan and you were there for Super Bowl I, and you got to see the birth of that league come into fruition and become a thing. We are here for that right now. So the boomers now, the white hairs, they all inherited football. We're in Super Bowl 50 or whatever. They weren't around for Super Bowl I. They just inherited it from their forefathers and before that.
It is the 100th season of the NFL.
Yeah. And we are here for 2 of the Overwatch League. And so we get to make this thing, when we're old and we're in season 30 of the Overwatch League, we will remember season 2 and Dogman talking trash to Arrow and how that started all of this. So let's embrace that, and let's embrace this ownership of the league and be happy about it. That got me so pumped when I was thinking about it and talking to him. I was like, man, this is amazing. Like, let's do this, dude. So I was stoked about it. So, yeah. Brad, what's up?
Just don't be afraid. Crack a cold one open. Queue times are long. I still want to play. Wow. Just be in it for the long haul, baby.
This man came prepared with props.
Dude, yeah, you were bringing the props, dude.
Get you waiting.
Oh, outlet, dude. Amazing.
Queue times are forever. Just,
buckle up, Buttercup.
Stay with it, baby.
Yep. All right, well, that is a great way to end the show. As always, thank you both co-hosts for being on. This was a blast. We're going to have the three of us and Mallory, Mackle Mallory on Twitter. That's our rotating crew right now. We'll only bring in Rob if we absolutely have to, because his takes are
he has
terrible.
Trash takes.
He
didn't think Guangzhou was even going to do well in stage 4.
Dude, oh.
Where is he now?
Our CEO.
Get him on the stream so I can yell at him. Like, honestly.
He's too afraid to be in chat.
Can we just have a WatchHaus episode, just like a bonus one on, like, Sunday night, where I just yell at him the entire time?
Dude, I'll just give you the stream key, and you just do it. You just log on, and you just go crazy.
I don't even need Rob there. He'll see the VOD on the next morning and be like, Rob,
he'll catch the highlights.
For you.
All that to be said, so yeah, Brad, good call, actually. So it'll be three of us and Mallory rotating more. You'll be seeing us a lot more. We've also got our shows on Thursday, Escorting the Payload, and the preview show with the other crew over there, Brad, Darbra, and Ethan. Tune into them as well. They're going to be previewing all the play-in action, which are going to be crazy. We'll probably all of us tweet out our brackets at some point. If not, you can just go back and watch the show notes. We're going to definitely revisit those because we got to see which one of us held it down. I've got Mallory's as well submitted. I didn't put it on air because she's not here, but we're going to be cross-checking hers as well. Best believe it. Hers was super safe and boring. Bleh.
Ooh.
But yeah, lots of good stuff coming up before the postseason and in the offseason. Thanks to the Portland Timbers, our sponsor for the WatchHaus Player of the Week this week. And we will see you all next week. I won't be here, but we'll be around probably. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Peace.